Hey, this is Kahja Elliott, Bronx born and raised, ATL made, Bay Area becoming. And this is the As Told By podcast. Then, all right, we back. This is a bonus episode. It is not time for a new episode, but this is a bonus episode of the As Told By podcast this week because we got a good one for you. We got wine expert, host of the original wine and hip hop podcast, president and CEO of Crew Love Wine, star of the James Beard and Emmy Awards nominated series on Tastemade, Street Somm, Young Thanos, the Wolf of Wine, Jermaine Stone.
Oh man, thank you so much. Wow, adding stuff on, it's feeling good. As years go along and you continue to pick up those infinity stones, the bio sounds great. But thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Nah, the pleasure is 100% mine. It's amazing to see one of my sisters from the Bronx out here doing a damn thing, turning food and wine up. Amazing podcast, and people don't get the love from our area in the Bronx, that Northeast. They forget it. They think South Bronx because, Kara, they got the great marketing and all that. But we up in the Northeast, so thank you for having me and thank you for putting on.
You are so welcome. And before we even get into it, in the words of the great prophet Jay-Z, first of all, I'd like to thank my connect, Angela McCrae.
Yes.
You hooked me up and put us in contact so that this interview could happen. So, girl, I owe you. I appreciate you, girl.
Oh, man, that's my sister. I miss her in New York, man. I wish she was still out there. But another person that's just dope and doing big things. I saw her growing in the industry. I remember when she was working at a wine shop and she just always had that passion, and she's an amazing person. She's just such a warm person. Yes. And she's a real one too.
She is. She's the executive director over at Association for African American Vintners, so y'all go look her up. But thank you so much. So you mentioned we are both from the Bronx, the same area, neighborhoods of the Bronx. I think we went to many of the same schools.
Oh, I'm sure.
111, Sousa, and Truman. I went to.
Well, so I used to hang out at Truman. You go to Truman to go watch the fights.
Right.
Right under the bridge.
Under the bridge,
yeah. But I definitely. So I went to 112. And which other one you said you went to?
Sousa.
Yeah. We both went to Sousa.
Yeah.
Sousa was, man, my mom was afraid for me to go to Sousa. But then, the alternative was Richard R. Green. So it's like, you damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Pick your poison.
Pick your poison.
Pick your poison. But look, here you are all this time later. So let's take it back to the origin story. So you talk about being from a Jamaican family. Your family immigrated to the Northeast Bronx in the 80s. Talk about what that transition was. And I know you weren't born yet, so they came to New York, you were then born, but you still grow up in a family that's representative of a lot of that culture. So what was that juxtaposition between growing up in a Caribbean family, but then having this influence of the Bronx and emerging hip hop culture?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's interesting because growing up now, I feel like being Caribbean is a lot more celebrated. And who knows, when you were a kid, you get different exposure. But they used to have them little stupid, Jamaican booty scratcher. They had them little stupid things back in the day. The kids can be horrible. But no, and don't get me wrong, I wasn't picked on or anything like that. But, my parents came in here as illegal immigrants, so I remember as a kid being afraid of immigration, when my dad got his papers in the early mid 90s.
Oh wow.
So we were really on the grind and just very smart and hardworking people. And the thing that you realize about Caribbeans and many immigrants overall that come into the United States or just migrate from other countries is just that they're so creative, and you got to be really smart to learn how to navigate and survive within this American system. But I always say, I have a 17-year-old son, and I grew up here, so I have the advantage. I could tell him what blocks you don't go down. I can tell him, what concerns he should have growing up. And the thing is, every generation has different things to be concerned about. But we are raised based on the fears of our parents. So my parents had different fears that they were wanting to protect me from. And so, there was definitely a lot of that. Like, wine and hip hop is my thing. However, I had great parents. We definitely grew up poor, and it was a rough neighborhood. But my mom was such a nurturing person and a smart person that knew how to create an environment where we didn't feel poor. So we didn't have a poor mentality. I didn't get the Jordans. I used to, I remember going
you got them now.
I remember going to Payless. You got to go to the back of the store and find the sneakers on the wall. So there, you got to learn how to navigate through stuff like that. But, like being influenced by hip hop, if you don't know how to decipher it as art and you're looking at it as instruction, then you could get into the wrong stuff. You can have an incorrect understanding of what these artists are trying to say. You might be taking it apples for apples and them saying like, this is what it is, when, it's really an art form and poetry and sometimes more figurative. They're not telling their own stories. They're telling the stories of people around them. I feel like my parents were not necessarily able to arm me with that. So the environment that I was growing up in, you adapting, and you're adapting based on a lot of times the instructions that you're hearing and things that's going on. So I definitely got into some stuff. It's pretty easy in that area. But you also got to learn how to protect yourself. Or I remember having on-site beef as a kid at 7 years old, 9 years old.
What is 7-year-old beef?
I mean, with because I have older brothers and sisters, so if one person got beef, we all got beef. We had beef with this family up the block. My dad is a G. My dad one time, he walked up when we were all about to have this fight, and my pops was trying to break it up, and this kid was 16, this punk ass motherfucker named Shu, he locked up right now. Oh, can I curse on him? I'm sorry.
Can.
Okay, yeah. This dude named Shu, he locked up right now. But he was about to fight, and my pops walked up. He was trying to break it up, and the kid got disrespectful. My pops just came home from work. He tied up his work boots. Oh, you want to fight? You want to fight? Tied up his work boots.
Caribbean man.
And the kid sucker punched my dad and ran. And so the whole family chased after him. His family's up the block. One of them hit my sister in the back with a glass bottle. This is the kind of stuff.
Okay, that's an on-site.
You know what I'm saying? We had on-site beef. I'm seeing people pull out knives and stuff like all sort of stuff like that. But the thing is, that is the environment. You kind of can't, and that's a part of the stuff I was talking about in the music that I play. It's just, you're already there. There's nothing you could do about it. You don't have to be there looking for a problem, but if you standing in hot water, you're gonna get burned, at some point. So
you got to master problem management.
Yes. And that's how I became the Wolf of Wine.
There we go. Okay, so before we get to the wine, though, you talked about thinking and moving into what you thought would be a career as a rapper.
Yes.
Right? And I thought it was really interesting coming from an immigrant family. You said your family was supportive of that, which is interesting because sometimes families would be like, no, they'll steer you towards what we call quote unquote a regular job. But,
right.
You had to really demonstrate some skill for your family to be about it. Right. But what are some similarities now that you kind of had a burgeoning career in music and now you've had a career in wine? What are some similarities between the two industries?
I feel like it's understanding how to read personalities, understanding that not everyone is your friend. Everyone doesn't have genuine intentions. And when I say genuine, not meaning that they're trying to hoodwink you or get something from you, but just not being a real person. And, with art, people try to present themselves as, I love music and I want to make the best music. And at the reality, we live in a capitalist country. Everybody's just trying to make money, and when I was in hip hop, I got so frustrated because everyone was just trying to put their friends on, or I stopped rapping because I didn't want to have to make music about particular things. I wanted to make music that was real to me. I didn't want, you need a hit, so you got to rap on this kind of beat, or you got to make a girl song, or you got to
collaborate with that person.
Exactly. I started to see that that's what it was. And there's like the formulaic music, like where they tell you, you do this, you do that, you do this, and then you got a hit. I didn't necessarily, and I didn't even feel comfortable being a quote unquote star in that way and being judged and all. I just wanted to do me, and I feel like here in the wine space, a lot of people can often not necessarily be genuine, but I found that in wine, and I think that's also one of the reasons why there's that decline in consumption in wine. But I think that wine, a big misunderstanding about wine is it's about heart, it's about soul, it's about family, it's about telling a story. And I think that I've been able to be successful is because I try to be a genuine person, and I genuinely, like all the things that I say, I genuinely mean. I'm not doing wine and hip hop because I feel like it's a cool gimmick that will get people in. That's just what the best expression of who I am and what my DNA is. That's just, that's just what explains who I am, so that's really what it's about. But I think that a big similarity is you can find people that are very genuine, and that's always going to be helpful. That's going to be what rises to the top. Like, look, I like Kanye West's music. I don't agree.
However, right.
I don't agree with a lot of the ways that he carries himself and the things that he says and a lot of the things that he does. But I will say that he is a genuine person and he means what he says. He's a passionate person, and I think that he's successful because of his passion. And ultimately, there's often, and it's in every business, I guess, but you got a lot of people that just come in to try to make money. We have a lot of celebrities that are getting into the wine business now. Some people just come in for a cash grab. I had a conversation with someone, and they were talking about Snoop Dogg and his wine brand. And look, bottom line is Snoop came in for a cash grab. He isn't for a cash grab. Snoop ain't hanging out at wine tastings and so on and so forth. Like, at the end of the day, however, at the end of the day, and it's being able to identify that and at least call it out, right? But Snoop also had the largest wine release of all time.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah, he had the biggest wine release of all time. And you think about that. So what was it? It was, oh my gosh, you think about who Snoop's demographic is. Think about what percentage of that demographic is black men. And if he's having the largest wine release of all time, think about how many more black men are drinking wine because of Snoop. Now, some people might just buy a bottle or two and then never buy it again, but you're going to retain some of those people. And black men is like the hardest demo to get into drinking wine. That's a lot of why I started doing what I was doing.
That's an interesting point, because when I spend time in Napa, it's very easy to see groups of black women there. And you see black men there, but
they
with black
their
women.
Girlfriends.
Right, but I've never gone to a winery. I have yet to pull up in a winery and see groups of black men. It hasn't happened.
It's so true. Like, often, I talk about wine and people say, oh, what you doing is cool. My girl drinks wine and my wife drinks wine. And that's great. But I want the guy to be bringing his girlfriend to the wine tasting. And the thing is, like, there's so many ladies that love hip hop, like true, real hip hop fans. I was talking with Alicia from Coco Noir Wine Bar in Oakland. Shout to her. If y'all in town, go check out. And she was talking about, like, old school friends of Jay-Z and stuff. Like there was this guy named D Haven. That was one of Jay-Z's old friends. And I'm like, damn, you really, really like understand, and you really locked in on some rap nerd stuff. And there are so many females like that. And, you know, interestingly enough, like when I look at my numbers on Instagram, like 57% of my followers are female.
Okay.
You know, so, but I'm like, I'm not playing a bunch of girl records and stuff.
I'm just doing what I do and let the audience be what it is.
Exactly.
So, you know, now you've been in the wine industry for, I heard you say, about 20 years.
20 years. Yeah, this October will be 20 years.
Okay,
20 years
so
in the game.
That's 2 decades in. You started at a wine auction house, and even though you ended up as the auction director, you started out unpacking boxes. So, you know, it's interesting because working your way up from the bottom, to me, is a little bit of a lost art, right? So my day job is in tech. And a lot of people just kind of feel like, I got a degree, I got whatever, I'm raw, and you just need to put me on. But there's a real value in starting by packing boxes and then ending up being the auction director. How the hell does that happen?
Yeah. You know, one, sticking your head down, keeping your head down, and having no ego. You know, like today, I would clean toilets today if it was worth my time and if it was necessary. And at the end of the day, I would make sure that I am the best toilet cleaner that, you know, so I found that often I had so many peers that would, you know, whether I was in the warehouse or whether I was in the office, a lot of people would constantly feel like something is beneath them. And I never had that ideal ever, you know, so one, that made me a lot more relatable to the people that I worked with. And I just wanted to learn. So other people that were above me, they wouldn't be intimidated by me trying to come for their job or whatever, you know, so it allowed me to be in a lot more rooms. People were passionate about teaching me. People actually wanted to help. Because I led with that humility often. But at the end of the day, I was also good at my job. I was efficient, and I just wanted to be a support system to everyone. And I treated everybody the same, you know, like you never know who you're going to meet on their way up. Correct. And then when they get where they are now, oh, that's my man. We've been down for the past 10 years. I remember when, you know, so it's important to, and in the same vein, the people that are at that upper echelon, you know, they in the spot already. Like my dad always told me, you know, you can learn from 3 kinds of people. You can learn from someone who didn't accomplish anything in life and look at them and say, this is what they didn't do and what went wrong for them. You can look at the person that, you know, is just kind of putting along and doing average and saying like, okay, why is it that that person has never gone to that next level? And then there's the person who's a level above you and looking at, wow, what did they do to get there? So really, you know, treating everyone the same and working my way up. But when you learn a company inside out like that, you know every detail. You understand how to be a good leader because you understand that person's job. You know how long it should take them to do something. You know if they're, you know, bullshitting off on the side. But, and then you also have empathy and respect for what it is they do. So, you know, it's just, I think that a big part of that is just constantly approaching every role that I've been in with humility and, you know, wanting to genuinely do the right thing.
Yeah. You said 2 things that stood out to me. You said you didn't come in with the ego and you came in looking for how you could serve and support. Like sometimes if you just approach things with what can I bring to this situation versus what can I get from this situation, you'll be surprised how people will just want to help you move up. Exactly.
You know, I be telling people, man, life is like a potluck. You gotta bring something to the table. If you ain't bringing nothing to the table, you can't eat.
Don't come with your arms swinging, and don't just bring no napkins either.
My friend, shout out to Junior Boss, man. He would always be like, yeah, you know, hang out with this dude. You know, he brings something to the table. Everybody gotta bring something to the table.
That's what it is. Just come and bring what you got. So, all right, you make the leap from auction director to where most people came to know you, which is through the show on Tastemade, Street Somm, which, let me just pull the break up right here for a minute. I think the show is so fun.
Thank you.
Right? Because if you're not already a wine aficionado, a long show with people talking about the subject matter, like people could start to tune out.
Yep.
For me, it's just long enough to keep your attention, and it's shot well. First of all, what the hell is the clothing budget? I'm watching the show and I'm like, the clothing budget and the tailoring budget must be crazy.
Shout to my man Vlad. That is my stylist. Look, if
Vlad, you on your job.
If y'all go to my Instagram, I don't remember Vlad's complete handle off the top of my head. I'm gonna make sure to shout you out here. But every dope fit you see me in is gonna say "Style by Vlad." We going to the Emmys. Vlad set me up. We got the whole Tastemade situation going on.
Ready.
But it was just like again, it's one of those things where we met, he's Haitian, so we both had that like Caribbean vibe, and we both from the hood, and he genuinely liked what I was doing. And so he pulled every possible connection he had.
It looks expensive. That's the word that came to my mind. I was like, shit looks expensive.
He gonna love to hear that. I'm gonna tell him.
Yes.
That's what I told him. I said, I want to look expensive. I did tell him
Mission
that.
accomplished.
He understood the assignment.
He got it. But yeah, the show is super fun. How did that come about? Did they, you just meet them in the course of doing the wine auction work, or how did they find you?
So after wine auction, so I left wine auction in 2016, and after wine auction, the wine auction house that I was working at, they downsized and stopped hosting their own auctions and began to collaborate with Christie's auctions. So they were handling just the wine portions for Christie's, and for me to keep my job, like one day I came in from work. And, 9 people had to get let go. And, I was told, like, we could find something for you to do, but you would probably have to move to L.A. At the time, my mom was sick with stage 4 cancer. That wasn't even an option for me. So I said, at the time, I had a lot of people that, one, wanted to hire me, but also I needed to have that flexibility of time, because at that time, my parents also, their house was foreclosed. So my mom was coming in to live with me.
Okay.
And I needed to have the flexibility to be able to be around. Like, things were transitioning very fast, and we were just trying to figure out how to handle it. Like, she didn't have health insurance until the month before she passed away. So it was just a crazy time, and I needed to make sure I was still making bread. And I've always had that reputation as a fixer in the wine space. That's where the Wolf of Wine thing comes from. And, so even collectors that purchased that auction, when they had their personal sellers that they needed to figure out stuff for, or they bought wine from all over the world that they had to figure out, they would always call me and I would always help them out. So I knew I had a future as a consultant in the wine, or in that fine wine space. But to market yourself in that space, you just got to be around. You have to go to the auctions. You have to be at these expensive restaurants, all this stuff. I didn't have the finances for that at the time. So shout to my man, Levy Dalton. He hosts a podcast called I'll Drink to That.
Okay.
And he was a good friend of mine. And, he was just like, yo, so what's your next move? What do you think about doing? I didn't really know. I'm like, okay, well, I do want to consult, but I'm not really sure how to stay out there. I want to continue auctioneering, but I didn't know how to stay out there. He was like, yo, you should really just lean into who you are. And he talked about this auctioneer, this guy named Michael Broadbent. And he was like, he was the first wine auctioneer in the United States. He came over from London, and he was an auctioneer for Christie's. And he was like, he was successful because he was very British. He leaned into his character. He was the British dude. He rode a bike. He had the bow tie. He was a quintessential person that Americans would expect from London. And he was like, yo, there's nobody else that's in this space that's like you. You should lean into who you are, like lean into the hip hop stuff. People like, and I was like, well, I don't know. I don't think people are ready for that. I don't really want, like, I wouldn't really tell my full story. You know what I'm saying? There would be
picking
parts,
and choosing.
there would be lines blacked out, you know, because, you know, it's not for everyone. So I didn't, he was just like, you should lean into that because it's what is unique about you. I was like, okay, I didn't really quite know what to do with that. But so that I could remain as a consultant, I started a podcast, Wine and Hip Hop. And because, you know, before Wine, I was rapping, I had a lot of friends that continued to go on in the music business and be radio hosts and, you know, be on TV and be multi-platinum producers and rappers and all that stuff. And and so I figured, okay, I could host a show where I sit with different influencers from either the hip hop space or the wine space. I ask them to pick a song or a bottle of wine, and then I'll pick a pairing, and we'll discuss our choices on the show.
Okay.
And, you know, pick a song or a bottle of wine that's like special to them, you know. So now it's like you have to talk about the song that you like and the why you like it, and or you have to talk about the wine. So either way, you're able to draw both people in. And it was to kind of serve a few different purposes. One, I knew that wine was misunderstood. You know, I knew that so many of the people that people would assume that would hate me or wouldn't relate to me or wouldn't want me to be there. I wanted them to see that a lot of those people were some of my best friends and champions of me, but also if these people are influencers in the wine space, you know, we're talking about like CEOs, heads of companies, like the kinds of people that, you know, would show like, wow, this guy, this black dude from the hood is well respected. So that means that I'm going to be able to be in front of the types of collectors that I want to be my customers. So, you know, with marketing, it's all about just staying in people's timelines, staying in front of their face. Like, and if I wasn't in that wine auction space anymore, it'd be really easy for people to forget about me. But the second thing is I had so many friends that would like buy $500 bottles in the club, but not be willing to spend $30 on a bottle of wine in the store. So I wanted to find ways, you know, it's the truth, you know?
Strange.
And so I wanted to find ways to one, break that down. And two, I thought about like, if they spending this on this bottle of champagne and I could get them a much better bottle of champagne, then that means that they're buying the image that is in the club. It's a cultural thing. So we buy wine for different reasons. The people that I also relate to, they're buying into that cultural piece. So let me make wine a bit more cultural. And everybody like expensive stuff. You know, like
Clearly.
all these
we do.
rappers, they like to talk about the next thing. Like we know about all these high-end designers and all these watches and stuff, not because they're around us, but because we hear rappers talking about them, and all the rappers is trying to, people like to be put on something that they're not on yet, whatever nobody's on yet. So I knew that so many of the people in hip hop that I knew would be interested by me introducing them to a lot of this stuff. And, you know, this was a budding thing within us. We just didn't really have the access or information around it. So the thing is, I could create more customers for my consulting world if I'm bringing rappers into wine, one. And two, if these rappers that people relate to are being inspired by them and feeling like, okay, wow, you know, Dave East isn't afraid to sound like he don't know what he's talking about. So, you know, now I can feel comfortable doing this. So I knew that I would be able to inspire and bring in new people in the industry and you know, just feel like they're a part of wine as well. So, and the other thing was I wanted to bring all of these things together, show people someone like me communicating with the other ends of the world, and invite and show, you know, one, that rappers are smart, articulate, you know, well-read, things like that. Like let them see that we are interested in these things as well, so that the perception of like the black men in America could also change. I knew that often, you know, like white dudes and people like stock in the stock world and stuff like that, they'll hear me talking about wine and then like, oh, well, how'd you get into this? And now they're like, oh, okay. And it's a different level of respect that always came along with this. So I felt like, you know, wine culture could help to uplift, like bringing more black people into wine culture could help to uplift black culture. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of different things that I was trying to serve with that show. It was never to try to be like a wine influencer or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I was just trying to create a new culture around wine. Like my 30th birthday party, I had ex-dope dealers and CEOs at the and they all had a great time. So I knew that in the right space, people would enjoy one another, you know? So
this is what I thought when I saw Kamala. Look, it wasn't too long ago, Kamala Harris had like something at her home.
Right.
I don't know if it was here in the Bay where she's from.
I did see that, yeah.
And I was like looking at the list and I was like, Jeezy the Snowman? Is that the
when Barack was on the way out, he was like just inviting mad rappers. Every week you see somebody like, I'm a little nigga fired. Every joint we gonna get a little bit mixed up. But you know, I started with that podcast, Wine and Hip Hop, and I'm one of them people, like I'm a very creative person. I basically like switch my image up every 6 months almost and have a new thing. So it went from Wine and Hip Hop podcast to the visuals for Wine and Hip Hop to when the pandemic came in, I started working on a show called Tasting Notes from the Streets, where I was pairing my favorite foods from the hood with different wines from around the world. Okay. And doing more like dynamic wine pairings, like pairing Jamaican beef patties with Spätburgunder, which is a German Pinot Noir. You know, pairing fried fish sandwiches from the fried fish spots with like Etna Bianco, you know, a volcanic wine from Sicily.
I don't know any of these wines, but I damn sure know the food.
Exactly.
I know that.
So the thing is, you recognizing the food that you already know and enjoy and pairing it with wine so that people could take it a lot less seriously. And that show began to really make waves. Like the first show that I worked with, my partnership was with Germany, you know, for that, to show German Pinot Noir and show how it could relate to the things that we enjoy. Because when people think about wine and food pairings, it's often paired with like, you know, the old world foods, like, you know, European foods that this is what they telling you to pair it with. You're not thinking about pairing it with the foods that you know, and neither are they, because they don't know them. Right. You know what I'm saying? So how could they? So again, a way that I could make wine more relatable to us. And instead of us going into their spaces, bringing them into our spaces. Yeah. And the show really is a visual and event series. So what I would do is create the show first, and then I would host an event where I had the actual food and the wine that you could try. And it started doing this thing. It started blowing up all the way down to, like, I filmed that show in Bordeaux with the Rothschild family. Like, they invited me out to their crib to, you know, have burgers and Chateau Lafite in the kitchen. Like,
this is a lot, y'all. This is a lot.
You know, we did it in Burgundy. We had grilled cheese paired with both white and red Burgundy. And the white Burgundy was from an iconic Burgundian wine producer, Dominique Lafon, who's a friend. Another friend, Jeremy Cess, from Domaine du Jacques, who is, you know, a legendary red wine producer from Côte de Nuit, you know. And we had the grilled cheese prepared by a Michelin star chef. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's bringing our thing to them. And, you know, it's doing these hardcore mashups like this, just bringing the seriousness off of wine and showing like, yo, you can enjoy this stuff how you want. So that kind of became a lot of what my signature was. And Constellation Brands began a partnership with Tastemade, the network. And I'd consulted for Constellation Brands at that point for 2.5 years. And, you know, one of the things that Constellation was asking me was like, how can they get wine? How can they help to diversify wine? I spoke at their national sales meeting in 2021. And they asked, if we gave you $100 million check, what would you do with it? How would you diversify wine? I was like, well, you give 1% to me to consult. And then, you know, you break it up 33% across the board, 33 in philanthropy and bringing new people in the industry, 33 into content, and 33 into activations, you know, because people want to touch and feel the wine, help them like taste it and understand it. The content is going to create a conversation around the wine and show people that conversation around the wine. And then, you know, bringing new people into the business is what you would utilize the philanthropy for. So, and then I'm going to be the guy that connected all this. So, but I really think that they took that to heart. And they began working with Tastemade, who's a huge network that was doing food programming. And Tastemade gets 300 million views. This is a global company, 300 million views per month. You know, so they began to conceptualize a show. And interestingly enough, it was a wine and food pairing show. You know what I'm saying? So I was the first person that was called. I did have to audition for the show and everything. The woman that auditioned me, she cried.
What?
Because, but look, I gave you the synthesized version of my story. I gave her the whole damn thing. And,
she was like, the job is yours.
She was like, you do it. This is great. But then as soon as it was presented in front of Constellation, they were like, oh, yes, this is the dude. This is why we started talking about all this stuff. So it was a very natural fit. And, you know, as soon as we spoke, it was just, and there was a lot of things happening for me at the time when the show was brought to me. Like I was in the New York Times like a month before we even signed the contract, you know, and just things were just going and going. At the time, I was already traveling globally, doing content and hosting events. So there was a lot of things already happening. So when we were recording that show, it came just as the wave was continuing to go, you know. So it was just, I'm super fortunate. We had an amazing team. The thing is, you know, I had one idea, and what Street Somm did was truly elevate that, you know. So so everyone knows, like, Street Somm is a traveling food and wine show where my it gave me a new AKA, Jermaine Bourdain.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
He was like, I'll take that. Thank you.
Know? And as soon as we started shooting, I'm like, I hope that show does well, because I really want to do the Jermaine Bourdain
thing. It got that feel.
I studied Anthony Bourdain and like what made him great. And a lot of what it is him being able to connect to stories and as a great storyteller. And really, that's what wine does. You know, wine is a story of the day that grape was picked. You know, whenever it's at the right level of acidity and ripeness, that's the date that they're gonna pick it. What the weather was that year, you know, what the family ideals was and their style of making wine, like champagne, what the house style is. It's history, and there's always stories behind it. So with Street Somm, I go to different cities. I link with a different foodie in each city, and they take me basically on a culinary journey that introduces me to the city as a character. Like, the city's a character on the show as well.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, because the thing is, like, we shot an episode in San Francisco in the Bay Area. And we had a tasting at the Oakland Museum, you know, at the restaurant
Chef
Town
Michelle
Fair.
McQueen.
Shout out to the amazing Chef Michelle.
Yes. And Chef Mimi, that was your host.
Man, Mimi, that's my sister. Yeah, that is my sister. But the dish that we had was a gumbo ramen, you know, which tells the story of the connection of the Black community and the Asian community here in Oakland. And many people just wouldn't know that. So food tells a story of the culture because it's always, look, everybody got to eat.
Everybody got to eat.
Everybody eats.
And that's how you get to know a city. To me, is, as I'm moving more into food travel, this is how you get to know a city. Is the first thing you hit up is the food.
Yep,
that tells you a lot about who's around, who's the population there, ethnically speaking. So you're spot on with that. I mean, you mentioned being in the New York Times. You mentioned you kicking it with the Rothschilds. You ran off a list of international wines. You have to have come across some of the most wealthy white circles I can imagine.
Oh, most definitely.
And in you
don't get wealthier than the Rothschilds.
You don't get wealthier than the Rothschilds.
They funded World War I.
Listen,
or World War II, I think.
Long money.
No, it was World War I.
It would be so easy for somebody in this position, I would imagine, to start kind of shape shifting into what you feel like you need to be. How you still, to me, feel very New York, right? So how are you moving through all this? Like unchanged.
I mean, I feel like I probably changed a little bit, but I think I eat a little more bougie, stuff like that.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. Hang out in different places, but no, like honestly, I think that it is because, like I said, I always started. The goal was to change the perception of Black men in America. So who I am and what I represent it's important to show them this is me, this is who we are, and it's okay. You can see this dude rolling up with army fatigues and Timberlands and not be afraid.
Yeah.
not make an assumption about that person. And that's what I wanted to remove. And it's like coming up in the wine auction business, it was, so you in tech, so often we feel like we represent all Black people, because these people don't get the opportunity to hang out with people like us from where we're from. So it's important to represent that well. And so I always held on to my authenticity because I wanted to make sure that I'm representing those people well and helping the next person who has not had the opportunity to meet and hang out with someone like me. Like, I'm trying to let them be more comfortable with everyone else. But there's a balance with that, but it's always been extremely important to me to just represent my people well and
show up as who you are.
It's a part of the job, know. That's
well, look,
how I look at it.
You're about to roll into a new job, quote unquote, with your upcoming project. You were here this weekend in Oakland. We just wrapped up the Black Food and Wine Experience. Shout out to Chef Mimi. It was an amazing event.
That's why I don't got no voice.
That's what I love. Wine been flowing all weekend long.
I was yelling a lot.
It was a vibe. Everyone had fun.
It was a vibe.
But you're about to launch a project, Wine Bars Volume 1 for the Love.
Yes.
What is that? Tell people who don't know.
Man, it's interesting. Like I said, I try to switch my shit up every 6 months, and I try to push myself. When I was growing up, everybody assumed I was going to be a rapper. That was just what I was going to do. Like I said, to the point where my parents were even supporting it. Like, okay, well, this is just what Jermaine's going to do. And, I was on 106 in Park. I was doing, that was like who I was. That was just what I was going to do. And I got jaded by the music industry. Like one of my friends I was rapping with, like, this dude caught a case. And another one of my friends got sent off down south because he was robbing stores and doing all type of crazy stuff, So it was just like, what was happening around me. And then I don't really like to be controlled. I don't like to be told what to do. I realized how fake the industry was, and I genuinely loved rapping. I loved the art of making music. And I realized that the music business was not necessarily about the art of making music. It was about the business of making music. And if I had to choose, I'd rather just continue to write for fun. And so I never stopped writing. I just stopped pursuing music professionally. And, that passion and love was always there. I always wanted to make like a mixtape and pass it around to my friends and family and just kind of like not tell anyone. But, you know, I continued to write over the years. And when I was shooting Street Somm, the Houston episode, they wanted me to rap because the show was about telling my story and introducing me to who I was. And I was just always talking about hip hop, always talking about my hip hop past, but I never put no music out, you know? So they were like, look, well, when we go to Houston, would you be, they asked if I would be down to like write the theme song for Street Somm. I was like, yo, shout out to my man Ben. I love you, my brother, but I ain't Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. This ain't Fresh Philadelphia, boy. Like, I was not about to do that. So it was like, well, would you just be willing to, like, because we need a reason for you to be in the studio. You're gonna do a wine pairing with food with Bun B. And I'm like, shit, yo, that's Bun. Like, man,
I gotta get ready. You gotta get my
Bun
game
B
up.
is the reason I started listening to Southern hip hop, you know, and respected Southern hip hop. So I was like, yeah, I'll rap. No, I didn't want to do it because like the stuff I rap about is like very raw. It's unfiltered. And I look at it as like, that's for me. You know, it was like my personal journal. And, you know, Alan, the director, he was like, well, look, I know you don't want to do it. I know you might be a little uncomfortable, but if people don't ever hear you rap and you always talking about hip hop, how will they know you legit? I was like, damn, he tested my metal.
Gauntlet on the table.
You know, in that case, I might be shy, but I'm not pussy. So we gonna go ahead and do what we gotta do. And so I was like, and the thing is, I knew I had bars, so I did it. Everybody was blown away and they were like, shit, like you really, really rap. And every time you say wine and hip hop and you hear a person like, you know, I used to rap back in the day and they don't rap now, you think that they trash or whatever. And, you know, I was very confident in my bars. And so I was like, all right, whatever, I'll do it. I did it. And I had some friends that won a music group. Shout out to my man, JoJo Brim. Who's one of the senior vice presidents at 300 Entertainment. And he heard it and he was like, yo, you should like do something with this. So I always thought about doing something with it, but how to present myself as an artist, I wasn't necessarily comfortable with. I'm not trying to sell 1 million records or anything like that. So I thought about the best way to present it. And the other thing is like, people got to know you, and well, they would need to know me and know my story in order for them to even appreciate my music and what I rap about. And I'm like a Pusha T, but for wine stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like
That's a combo.
I'm rapping about wine like I'm moving bricks and stuff, you know? But the thing is, there's so much terminology there that if you don't know wine, you're not even going to get it. So I figured like, okay, the best way for me to do this is and like right now people are doing a lot of like cool and interesting ways to release music. So For the Love, so Wine Bars Volume 1 For the Love is you know, all of these rhymes that I wrote over the years, but I'm presenting it as a wine book. So it's similar to like Jay-Z's Decoded, where he decodes all his lyrics. So because I rap about wine so much, every line that has a wine reference in the project, I actually broke down what it is, what I'm talking about. There's wine maps, things like that. So you really learn about wine through the bars, and the only way to get the project is through a QR code that's in the book. I'll release one single.
I pre-ordered my book. Y'all need to go pre-order y'all's too.
Yeah, man. You know, I'm really rapping on this.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's the thing. So I'm releasing it as a wine book, and you know, the sound, the music is a soundtrack to the book. It's an audio reference so that, you know, the actual knowledge can get in your head and you can attach yourself to it. Like, you know, I'm sure you grew up with your mom saying, I hope you know them books the way you know them raps. You know what I'm saying? So now you can really learn about wine through the rap. But, you know, on the other side to that coin is, you know, I have so many that people that know me for wine and are interested in what I do around wine that aren't from a hip hop background and maybe just listen to hip hop passively. So let me teach you about raps through the wine, you know? So that's really what the whole thing is about. But,
bridging gaps.
you know, bridging the gaps and continuing to offer a different extension to myself and who I am and what I do. And, you know, and the thing is, everything I rap about is 150% true. You know, there's like zero cut on anything. And so it's volume 1 because there's really like 3 volumes to it.
Okay, we're getting more?
Yeah, there's a lot more. So like volume 1 is a project that's just about me and is very deep. And, you know, I talk about a lot of just stuff I don't talk about in interviews and regular conversations. So people would get to know me in a different way. Volume 2 is really just about rapping. And it's just about like trying to show people like I could really, really rap. And so I'm actually recording that whole project out here while I'm in California.
Okay.
But so volume 1 is produced by the Heat Makers, and volume 2 is produced by a European producer, this guy DJ Moore. And volume 3, there's a lot of just it's a mashup of wine concepts, however, utilizing classic hip hop concepts. That's as much as I can say about it now.
Like, don't give it all away.
Yeah, it's all coming, you know.
We are ready.
But I'm excited about it because it's like just bringing genuine hip hop back. Yeah. You know, this ain't no like, you know, I don't got dances to it or nothing like that. I'm just giving them bars all day. I just got lyrics for you. That's it. All I got is bars. That's it. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't sell the other stuff at this store. I like it, but I don't sell it at this store. So.
Okay. Well, we definitely will keep our eye out for that. I'm so appreciative of the time. I want to just ask you one final question.
No, please. And look, I'm doing the lunch later, but I still haven't gotten the text yet. So I got time.
Oh, we got time?
Yeah,
look,
we got time.
I'm over here editing.
Yeah, no,
I'm editing because I know I said I had you out by a certain time.
No, for sure. Once I
you give me the signal.
Yeah, once I get the text of like where it is I'm actually going and all that, then. But right now I haven't been hit up yet, so I'm here.
Okay, well then let me.
Look, my sis.
Let me roll back.
We went to Sousa. Okay, like it's different.
I grew up in Mark Terrace. Boy, I must have 22 some years on Baychester.
Oh man, yes, Baychester. I could tell you some stories.
Boy, I'm sure we know many of the same people. Okay, so let me roll back. So you mentioned in one of the episodes of Street Somm that if people think there's a specific wine that they don't like, that they should try it and think about where they were and what they were doing when they had it.
Yes.
To create some kind of contextualization. I thought that was so interesting in these parallels you're making between wine and music. Here's an example, right? When Cowboy Carter just came out. Yeah. And, you know, Beyonce liked to put an album out at midnight. Albums out at midnight, by 1 a.m., people are like, it's a masterpiece. It's the best ever. And I'm like, it's been out for an hour.
You ain't even get to feel it. You ain't heard it in the car yet.
Exactly. You haven't heard it in the car. You haven't been in the club. You haven't had the ability to try it on and have an experience with it when you feel like, okay, this music is really relevant because it's connected to this experience in my life. Same thing with, I didn't think that it could be the same thing with wine. Like there was a wine label I really loved. It's discontinued now, and I found out after I drank mine that it was discontinued. But I loved it so much, and looking back, you know, I had purchased it and enjoyed it during a time where things were really going well for me. So it was the connection that I liked it, but also it was the connection with the experience.
Right. You know, it's art. You know, it is I always explain wine as an expression. You know, the same way that I am expressing a feeling with my music. I always say Tupac is an amazing rapper because he was able to translate emotion really well. Like when you hear Tupac angry, he's the most angry person you've ever heard. You know, when you hear Tupac loving and yeah, you see what I'm saying? When you hear Tupac loving and tender, you know, and Brenda's Got a Baby, it's like, damn, it's sensitive. Dear Mama, like, it's sensitive. When you hear him reminiscing, you know, on a song like Old School, it's like, damn, it really brings you into that era. So he's able to translate emotion. Like, wine is all about expressing the winemaker expressing an idea, a feeling. So often, you know, don't even get me started on all the deep shit, but like, you know, people emit vibrations, you know, and there's a reason why when you hear a song in the club, you like it. Like, I didn't like that song when I heard it on the radio, but I heard it in the club, and you know, now you attaching an emotion to it. Yeah. So, but even still, like, wine is about textures. And, you know, when you are, I use the example a lot, like drinking milk outside on a hot day, you know, versus you drinking milk inside the crib, like, you know, you got a roasting fire, you chilling. These are whole different experiences. Like, if you drinking milk outside on a hot day in the summer, that's not really you. If that's your first experience with it, you might be like, oh, I don't like milk. Milk is nasty, you know. So, but you might want to drink something refreshing, you know. So if you have some Sauvignon Blanc, and you on a yacht in Miami and it's 100 degrees, you might like, damn, that's Sauvignon Blanc. I love Sauvignon Blanc because of that, like, acidity and freshness. You know what I'm saying? It got that little sour taste to it. It's like drinking some lemonade outside, you know? So I think that that's very important for people to take into consideration. But also when you're pairing wine and food, it's the same thing, because these textures, they kind of have to go together. You know, there's textures and flavors that can make you appreciate something. Like a chemical reaction happens in your mouth, pause, you know, where it's like it can heighten the experience a little bit, you know, whereas if you taste it right after brushing your teeth, now you're not getting what you're supposed to get with it.
Got it.
So I think that where you are, what you're doing, what you're eating, what you're drinking, like all of that stuff should come into account. And so that's why, as I like it myself more like a lifestyle sommelier. You know, I'm trying to pair the wine with the situation and the vibe. Having something in the correct vibe, I feel, tends to help you look at things a little bit differently. So I think that's really important. And the other thing is like where a wine is from, because just like music, wine has, and this is what we were talking about with the terroir tapes listening sessions. So, you know, for you guys that don't know, terroir is the combination of growing conditions around a wine, as well as the consideration of like the local cultural norms of the area and the human element of it. You know, the production method that's most popular in the area. So wine, there's different varieties of grapes. You have like Cabernet Sauvignon, you got Merlot, you got Chardonnay. These are all different grape varieties. Excuse me. But, you know, you'll have the same way you'll have like a Granny Smith apple or a golden apple. These are different varieties of fruits. So they taste different. It's the same fruit, but it's a different expression. And the thing is, the growing conditions around it are going to help it to express itself differently. You know, is it a hot climate? Is it a cold climate? What's the soil composition? What is the human element? So, you know, is it only fermented once? Is it fermented twice? Is it in a steel tank? Is it in a bottle? Like, you know, there's all of these different things that can go into it and make it express itself differently. So it's a completely different flavor if you're drinking Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa versus Cabernet Sauvignon from Bordeaux, you know, a lot of times, so in when you drink Bordeaux, people don't even know what the variety of grape is in it, because the way that it's communicated is different. In the New World and in the American wine market, for example, which is a new world, you know, because it's not where this stuff originated from. Actually, the California wine scene is very influenced by the French wine scene. Okay. That's why you'll see a lot of the same varieties of grapes used. But Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Petit Verdot, you know, that's like a classic Bordeaux blend. But over there, you know, they're just calling it Bordeaux. They're not saying like, oh, we're blending Cabernet Sauvignon, Petit Verdot. They're not saying that. They're communicating as Bordeaux, because that's what the terroir cultural norm is, 1, and 2. That's what the rules of the region are. In the New World, they don't honor those same rules. That's not how it's communicated. So that in itself, you know, different soil compositions, hot climate versus cool climate is going to express itself differently. Warmer climate, you'll get, you know, a bit more ripe fruit. You know, it'll be a bit more rounder. I like to, and if it's a cooler climate, warmer climate, the grapes will ripen faster. In a cooler climate, the grapes will ripen slower, and it'll keep that acidity. You know, a good way to think about it is the difference between lightning and thunder. You know what I'm saying? Lightning is a bit more electric, it's straight out. And so that acidity, that I always say acidity is that little sour taste. You know what I'm saying? it gets you here. It gets you right here. Like, remember that commercial? You know, that little sour taste. That's acidity, right? So, you know, if it's a cooler climate and the grape is ripening slower, then it's going to maintain that acidity a lot more and, you know, express itself differently. So back to what I talked about with textures, you're computing that in your brain completely differently. So it's a whole different expression. So like sometimes I'll hear people say, oh, I don't like Chardonnay, but where's it from? You know, because the soil composition, the cultural norms, the production styles, all these things are going to be different. So if you understand how wine expresses itself from particular places, then you'll have a different outlook on what it is you're tasting.
Okay. So look, he just gave us
I was a lot.
It's okay. No, this is okay. Like breakdowns on breakdowns, because this is what the show does, and this is what you do, is make this relatable for people to understand. And I also like that you don't just pull from high labels. It seemed like you were pulling from labels that may be less expensive to some that are on the more expensive side. And just so you know, my meeting
got pushed back to like indefinite, so I got all the time in the world.
Here we go. It's my lucky day.
We cool. I'm gonna show you who's texting with.
Oh, look, indefinite. Look, just be ready when the call comes. Be ready. Yeah, I saw yesterday. We all was like, okay, did the double take. Okay, good on you. You here having a good time. You here having a good time. But I was saying, you know, this premise, like you have to spend a lot, and I think sometimes that can be not nerve-wracking, but just, you know, as Black people are starting to be more and more comfortable just as consumers in the wine space, you know, coming into a tasting room, someone like me, I'm not super versed in wine. Like, I know what I like. I know what I don't like. I do not like red. I keep trying. Maybe I'll find a red I like.
You'll find something.
But I keep trying up until and including last night. And I'm like, damn, I just still can't get it. But, you know, going into these rooms and maybe not being very versed in what everything is, but feeling like the environments are now at least becoming welcoming enough to go in, have the conversation, to go in and not have buku money to be spending, but still be able to come out of there and have something and have an experience.
Yeah. No, and it's about variety. Like, that's why it, like something like what Chef Mimi did with the Black food and wine experience is great, because you have so many different types of wine in one room, and it's a infinite pool. You know, there's just so much out there. So I would And that's why I do stuff like Wine and Hip Hop Festival. I go to, festivals like what Tahira does with the Wine and Culture Fest
in Atlanta.
And and she does it all over. I know this year I believe it's in DC.
Oh, okay.
But it's amazing because you got to try stuff. It's about just trying and trying and trying and trying. Like, we grow up and we're used to being very brand centric and locking into particular brands. But it's like I mentioned, wine is about where it's from, not necessarily. I mean, don't get me wrong. The particular winery or that, the different, like each champagne house, for example, they have rules that they have to stick to, right? Because of, what the cultural rules are in that, with that terroir. Champagne. It got to be usually like non-vintage. It has to be 3 grapes, one of 3 grapes, Chardonnay. Well, most non-vintage champagnes that you see is a blend of 3 grapes, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier. Like, people don't even realize 2 of those 3 grapes are red. But most of the champagne you see is white. They just don't have no skin contact, and it doesn't absorb any color because it's just not it's just straight juice, But it's about trying stuff, because wherever it's from is going to give you a completely different thing. So, just go to wine tastings, go to, and not just like big festivals, but like your retail store, they'll probably have tastings, so it's important. And I tell people all the time, don't just go to the big chain spots. Go to bottle shops, where there's a wine buyer that's being very intentional about tasting wines and bringing different stuff in. And like when you're trying to figure out, how to pick a bottle, don't just go by the label. Find that person in the shop that's a buyer that understands your palate.
Yes.
And keep looking around until you find somebody that tends to recommend good stuff. And, lock in with them.
Stick beside them.
Yes.
Stick beside them.
It's like your barber. Don't change
right.
up.
Don't change your barber. Right. We're so fortunate here in the Bay. We have folks like Fern Stroud and her team at Black Vines that they do such a good job of putting so many different varieties and opportunities and occasions in front of us to try all of these different things. So I hear you. We have a lot of those small shops, bottle shops, Alkali Rye, Bay Grape, where we can walk in and really talk to people who are knowledgeable about the product and can put you onto something that you had no idea or you just wouldn't find like in a Total Wine or a BevMo.
A wine buyer's job is to buy wine.
Yeah.
That person is tapped in. It's like having your own consultant that's trying a whole bunch of stuff, reading up and seeing what's good, seeing what's new. Utilize that resource. It's free.
You there, so you might as well.
You might as well.
Yeah. Well, okay, so for real now, I will ask you one last question.
Yes, no problem.
One of the quotes from the Houston episode, which I really did like that episode a lot, but one of the things you said was, success wouldn't be so special if it was easy. There's a price you pay. You're living a life where a lot of people that are from where we're from and beyond can only imagine. Has the price been worth it?
Damn, let me tell you something. First off, this is the last question, so I gotta give you your flowers. You are an amazing interviewer. I do so many interviews and the questions be kind of like the same thing, or these are great questions. Thank you so much. I'm a fan right now. Like, we're gonna have to talk about some other stuff because you are doing a great job.
Thank you.
But one of the things, I'm open about this. I talk about this on the show. I'm going through a divorce right now. And a lot like
it's a lot.
You know what I'm saying? Trust me, if I was not doing what I was doing, I would probably not be going through a divorce. I'll say that. And to answer your question, 150%, because it 150%, it is worth it. Because what is life about? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is success even when you think about that? I think that I'm doing something special for myself. Like, I could write a book, right? Like, it could end today, and it would have been an amazing story that'll live on forever. How many people can say that they can really do that? Like, I've thrown parties in 1,000-year-old castles that rap music has never been played in. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's I've lived a very unique life with many once in a lifetime opportunities, and so I would definitely say that it's worth it, but also because I'm breaking down barriers. I'm inspiring people. I set out to push my race and my culture forward, and I'm actually doing that. And there's not many people that have walked this earth that can say that they did that. I'm not a rich dude or nothing like that. I'm still in the grind just like everybody else trying to make it. And but like, some people are so poor that all they have is money. You know what I'm saying?
That's a bar.
And like, I could go in other countries in the world and eat for free. And like, one time I was in Burgundy, I walked in a restaurant, they wouldn't even let me pay for the food.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? I could go, hey, I'm gonna be in town. Oh, take my house. Like Kanye, I'm giving Kanye mad props. Like, I'm a big Kanye. I'm really not. Like, I respect the guy's art, but he be bugging a little too much for me. But you got to separate the art from the man. But that's a whole nother conversation. True. And but he talked about the fact of, like, my house is in my backpack, which I think is like, what that interview was weird, I know, but but the thing is, he did talk about the fact of, and I'll use Swiss Beats as a reference instead. But he had this dope video on Instagram the other day, and he was like, if you want to really see who you are, and see if you really are who you think you are and who you say you are, go out one day with no money. And if you can live the exact same life and do all the exact same things that you normally would with $0 in your pocket, that's something to truly be proud of. Because that just means that you just a part of the community. You are, like, people want to be, like, it's like we talked about earlier, people want to support you. Like, there's this when I advertise my events and stuff, sometimes I'll have these things on my Instagram where I'll go to a store, I'll try to buy something, and be like, oh, your money's no good here. And that is, to me, that's true wealth, because that is individual wealth. We could have nothing today and have everything tomorrow, and then the following have
Vice
nothing.
versa. Yep.
Like, worldly possessions mean absolutely nothing. So I feel like, as far as what I've sacrificed to get here, like, I fought through, sticking to my guns after losing my mother, sticking to my guns, through divorce. Like, I filmed the entire Street Somm, like, just as, like, our separation began. That's when I started traveling and all that stuff to do that. So I locked in. I was writing music a lot more. That's just what I dialed into. So shaping your perception on what life is, that's what this has all really helped me do. And I feel like I've been able to, just through all of it, really gain true wealth, like gain true knowledge, the kinds of people that I've been able to sit and chill and learn from, and also inspire at the same time. That to me is like, you can't put a dollar amount on that. Yeah. And so I definitely think that the price has been a very heavy toll, but it's all been worth it. And we can, like, everything is gained through struggle. One of the things that, and like that conversation I had with Bun in that episode, we talked for a minute, and it was a deep ass convo. They had to cut it down, but I talked about the fact that when you get exactly what you want, you get the opposite at the same time. Oh, wow. Like when we're working out, for example, and we're gaining muscle, we feel our weakest. Like you do push-ups to failure. So when you're at your strongest, you're actually at your weakest. If you're trying to save money, you feel broke. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not. So you get to be able to experience true love. you have to be willing to sacrifice pain.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like at the same time, like when you really love someone, that's the person that could hurt you the most. So you get exactly what you want and the opposite at the same time. So it's just, you know, I think success is really about having the perspective to be able to appreciate it while being able to live through whatever it is you have to get through to get that. So I definitely feel that, and it's 100% worth it. And, you know, I hope that I can continue to help and inspire and, you know, change the perception of black men, not just in America, but all around the world now.
Yeah. You're doing it, and you're about to roll into what is probably going to be one of the biggest weekends of your life so far.
Yeah.
Emmys are this weekend.
Yeah.
James Beard is this weekend. I will be at the Media Awards for James Beard. So I know you said you will not be there, but please, you have my assurances that if you win in that room, it's going up.
It's going
up. I can't wait now. You know, I got a few people that I know who are nominated for things, so I'm going there as an observer, but I'm going so excited to potentially be there, you know, to see a part of your success and evolution. So thank you so much.
Please record it, like throw the camera up
I
as
have
soon
it
as
ready. I have it ready.
And like, look at that. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like I was going through what I was going through while I was shooting that show. Now we up for Emmy and a James Beard Award. I don't even know anyone that was even nominated for both of those things at one time. You know, so to me, it's just, it confirms that those sacrifices are at least being recognized, which means the world. So I'm with it.
Tell people where they can find out more about you and about your projects.
Yes, you can follow me at Real Wolf of Wine on Instagram. I post on Instagram a lot. I answer like every DM. You know, also follow at Wine and Hip Hop Show. So many great things coming through that, and I'm also, you know, now helping other content creators to create content, and so I'm producing stuff. And also wineandhiphop.com. You know, it's like the central piece for everything. And, you know, you can pre-order the book there. You can listen to the podcast, watch the visuals. It's all there. All
right. Well, I'm going to make sure that I link all of that with the show notes. Go get your pre-order. Follow up to see what happens with Emmys and James Beard. He'll post it. I'm going to post it too. We have enjoyed you in Oakland this weekend. Thank you so much for taking time to sit down and talk with me.
The pleasure has truly, truly been all mine. And like I said, you are an amazing interviewer. Like truly one of the best that I've sat with. And you know, I wish you nothing but success. You know, please consider me a resource. Whatever I can do to help, I'm here for it, and I'm definitely gonna be calling you for some stuff because I think you bodied this. This is great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. If y'all want to keep up with me in between episodes, you can find me on Instagram at Hey K in the Bay. That has been this week's bonus episode of the As Told by podcast. We will be back the following Tuesday with our regularly scheduled episode, and I'll see y'all on the next one.
Yeah. Peace.